Yeah, another live stream episode from our heart to yours. Beyond the Veil, y'all. An unusual podcast. I'm your host, Jay Drews, also known as Jay Drizzy. My main man, co-host, T. Manuel, Black Sun Shaman, if you will. Welcome back, brother.
Come to cast out demons. Oh, sorry. What's going on, brother?
Indeed. Oh man, you know.
We're going to be doing a great deliverance ministry tonight.
Oh snap!
Setting people.
Indeed. In deliverance ministry. Absolutely. We got something echoing in the background.
It's yeah, right. There we go. Did the echoing stop there?
It indeed did. Yes, it did. Well, nope, there it goes.
Uh-oh.
Okay. No big deal. Hopefully we'll. I'm hearing myself pinging, I think. Let's see. Sorry about that. Technical difficulties, you all. Thanks for bearing with us. Let's see. Okay. You good, brother?
I'm ready. I'm ready to roll.
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and let you kick this off the way you want to kick it off. You had some things you wanted to impress upon the people as ultra important at this last day of their fiscal business year. Uh, I think this would be a good way to kick it off. You know, going into the new fiscal business year. As one of the main businesses is making us sick, so they can treat us and not heal us, right? Whoever they are.
Well, I mean, first and foremost, let it be said that parasites and demons are the same thing. That would be the most important overall thing to get from this. And then as the video goes on, I'll just give you a few to start out. With this new year coming up, at the end of every 3 months, a person should go have hydrotherapy if they can take it. If make sure that you go to your doctor and make sure that you don't have thin bowels because they can't take the pressure and you might perforate your bowels. So you want to go to your doctor and make sure that everything is good there. Then get yourself some hydrotherapy. You have cayenne pepper. You have black walnut hull. You have the herb called wormwood. You have walnuts, which walnuts kill parasitic eggs. You want a shot of cayenne pepper, mix a tablespoon of cayenne pepper into some water, take it like a shot. They have liquid forms of clove, black walnut hull, and wormwood all together in one thing. You should definitely do a parasite and cleanse, especially at the beginning of this year, so that you can get your nutrients, your vital energy back to you as opposed to parasites or demons.
These kind only come out by prayer and fasting. Yes, and of course, fasting is, the period that we go without food, that our body is trying to return itself to stasis. And any period in which you go without food or water, sometimes just food while drinking water, could be considered fasting. We call the first meal of the day the breaking of the fast, where the word breakfast comes from. So I'm sure a lot of our audience is already aware of those things. But yeah.
It's interesting to note when those some of them only come out by prayer and fasting. An interesting note on the 14th day of a fast, research shows that your body will start going to kill free radicals. It'll start removing cancer cells. All of these things will start to occur on the 14th day of a fast. Interesting note: some parasites you can't kill; you have to starve them out. So their starvation process, they begin to die out on like day 3, the end of day 2, the beginning of day 3. Certain types of parasites begin their die out process. And by the 14th day, you've pretty much starved out at least 75% to 80% of what is in your system. And, it's just interesting to note that cancer goes away, medical conditions go away. Um, they've had some psychological issues that have gone away with fasting. And, it's interesting to note that the parasites die and then all of these things begin to return to homeostasis with the fast.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, what are some of the symptoms, man, that occur when a person is ridding themselves of these demon slash parasitic entities?
It depends on which part of the body you're purging. You have parasites that can be in the eye, you have parasites that can be in the brain, you have parasites that make house out of the reproductive organs. You have parasites that make home out of the stomach. Um, you
Mm,
know, so it depends on which part of the body you're clearing out. But some of the symptoms are diarrhea. Um, some of the symptoms are skin rashes. Um, some of the symptoms you may feel sick. So the sick feeling and the headache. Let's address that specifically because it's a big deal. So if somebody stops their sugar intake and you develop severe headaches after stopping your sugar intake, usually this is because the parasites are urinating and defecating, and they're trying to get you to stop what you're doing. So a lot of the time, when you're fasting or when you're going through that, you'll face a headache. My suggestion to you is to go ahead and push through that to the best of your capability. You know what I mean? If you got to take a Tylenol or something, you know what I mean, do that. But make it past that headache and make it past that part of it, because as they die, they release toxins that may make you feel sick to the stomach. And as they're trying to get you to stop whatever you're doing to kill them, they'll defecate and urinate in the stomach and in the brain, and that can cause pain in the stomach and severe headaches. So when you're going through that process, look out for those, but don't let those be what stops you, because that's just the demon trying to regain control of its host.
Um, Another friend of mine made me aware that while I was
Parasite.
doing one of my cleanses that I was on, a friend of mine made me aware that pomegranate juice can return the balance or feeling of balance and stasis in the body while you're doing the cleanse that causes the parasites to die out. So that definitely tremendously helped uh, for me, during that process to feel more like my normal self, not my parasite riddled, embattled, controlled uh, Yeah. So,
One of the
but yeah,
one of the
absolutely.
scariest one of the scariest experiences when I was doing mine, man, I did the complex. I did the Wormwood Black Walnut Hall Clove Complex. And immediately upon taking it, there was a pressure release in my brain, like a noticeable pressure release of like as soon as it went onto my palate and I ingested it, which is supposed to that particular combination is supposed to paralyze parasites completely. So
Right.
there's no medical information backing that up, but that sounds to me like parasites losing their grip, losing their hold, losing their function, and that's the tension release that I felt right after the consumption of that particular complex, which is an extremely powerful parasite paralyzer.
Facts. So, I mean, it's like when we talk about this, man, do you ever have the thought like we're torturing the enemy? Like, like paralyzation or paralysis, and then, starving them out, then killing them off, and then, you know, when a person dies,
Yeah,
they excrete waste, you know, they evacuate their bowels or their uh, kidneys, when they're getting ready to pass away. So it's just interesting how that process is taking place inside the body. You know,
you
what,
know,
what's that?
interestingly enough, you say that
That's your okay. It
I hear it
might
too.
be
I don't know the click. I don't know what that is,
like almost
but
like a robotic pinging. I don't know if it's coming from
yeah, yeah.
the background of our audio. I don't
Here,
know if
okay. I'm gonna try to do.
see if
There we go. Okay. No, in light of your question though, you said, does it ever feel like we're terrorizing the yes, it does. And then we got to get to the kingdom of darkness. They say that demons are part of the kingdom of darkness. So if you notice where parasites are in each kingdom that they exist in, they're in darkness. They're under the skin. They're in the stomach. They're inside of the body. They're inside of the animal body. They're inside of the brain. They're in the depths of the ocean and they're beneath the ground. All of these places share darkness in common. So when dealing with parasites, I do feel like that we're doing direct damage to the kingdom of darkness. You know what I mean? It's the demystification of in my thought process is the demystification of demonic possession.
gotcha. So now, what about the people that are say demons are etherical entities that have the ability to speak to and through people, to jump into their bodies? They don't have to have any particular physical means other than the person's invitation, directly or indirectly, by their actions or their choices, their thoughts that they keep, their uh the kingdom spiritually that they traffic in and out of.
I I would say that is absolutely correct. And then I would go further to say that if a multidimensional entity wanted to house itself in a body, then it would have to use a lesser consciousness to make it its domicile because the larger consciousness is harder to overtake. So when dealing with parasites, well, let's deal with demonic possession. When dealing with demonic possession, we hear the word legion referred to often in reference to demons, meaning a multitude of demons, and sometimes it was references to hundreds and thousands of them. Well, if you take that into the parasite comparison, you can see that a legion can be within a person's body if it is a large amount of parasites. They've just recently shown that the parasites have intelligence enough to form schools like fish, and they'll
Yeah.
swim together like in schools like fish, which it shows a level of consciousness. You know what I mean? And with that stated, when a person says that they may be inhabited and controlled by, you said take over their voice, contort their body, make it so that they do not want to eat or drink certain foods, or do not want to eat or drink at all. When dealing with all of these traits, you could very well be dealing with parasite takeover. We can see in ants, we can see in fish, we can see in plants. When parasites take over, it causes strange behavioral patterns, even to the extent that rabies in a human will have a human where the person doesn't want to drink water and is definitely afraid of it, and they'll die from dehydration if they're not given water and this parasite is taken care of. Then they'll reject water and they'll reject food. So when a person says, it can take over their body, it can jump from body to body, it can do all of these things, I would say yes, everything that you forementioned is correct, and it is pertinent to parasitic exchange and overtaking or possession.
So just playing DA here, and I don't mean district, I mean devil's advocate, right? So come on,
The
man.
flies. No, let me.
You mean to tell me that a preacher might have a parasitic infestation and go to lay hands on your stomach, and you have a parasitic infestation you're not aware of, and they react to one another? Because what's the effective frequency on both demons and parasites?
Not only will they react to one another, there was one aspect of their possession that I did not mention. So they affect chemical balance within the body. And we know that hormonal balance and chemical balance within the body is responsible for urges. It's responsible for hungers. It's responsible for some desires. So when you're dealing with these parasitic overtakings and they're interrupting your neural pathways, they're interrupting your vitamin and nutrient intake, and they're stealing from you, then you may develop urges that are based on feeding the parasite. You may develop relationships of the sacred energy exchange type and develop desires of the sacred energy exchange type. Like I seen that girl and I just had this feeling, you know what I mean? Or there was this smell that I smelled, or there was this thing that drew me to her. You think that it may just be the perfume or the whatever that she had on or that he had on, but it may very well be the hormonal balance or the hormones entering into your system, causing you to develop an urge that would allow for parasitic exchange, sexually transmitted demons.
So wait a minute. Devil's advocate again. You mean, okay, what about the spiritual aspect? So you're saying that it can't be a spirit that's got me drawn to this young woman or me. It's not an actual like fourth dimensional entity in an etherical, non-physical body that is communicating to my brain center.
Even that I can agree with, and you can see that in the schooling and the the level of consciousness that it takes to take over an ant, to take over something like that. These So if you have a dimension, okay, so let's talk about the interdimensional awareness of the mind. This is an interdimension. There is no physical representation for the thoughts that are developed in the mind, unless you're thinking of something that already exists in the physical. But if you're using your imaginative force, it's a dimension going on up here of its own, a non-physical dimension, thought. We'll call it the world of thought. Okay, so if you have a parasite that is dealing on the frequency of the brain. Let's say the frequency of the brain is 82 megahertz. If you have a parasite that operates in the range of 82 megahertz and also inhabits the brain, then the function of the brain is now being taken over by a being from another dimension. This is again when you're dealing in the kingdom of darkness. You say that, say the parasite is taking over the reproductive area or is dealing with you in the reproductive area, then you will get a signal from that dimension. That's another dimension. That's an inward dimension. And so if a multi-dimensional being wanted to inhabit this, oh goodness. Now you done took it. If a multi-dimensional being wanted to inhabit this particular plane of existence, then it could use the amoeba consciousness, which is one-celled organism, the insectoid consciousnesses, and the very small consciousnesses to take over piece by piece. This is what scares me about AI, but we'll get into that a little bit later on. But I do remember a woman saying, she said that we didn't create AI, we just gave it mechanisms to use to communicate. It was a pre-existing consciousness.
Of course. Man, so yeah, go ahead. I'll man.
So yeah, you can. I agree. I would agree with that person. If a person said, "Could it be a fourth dimensional, fifth dimensional, whatever dimensional being trying to take over the physical mechanism?" I completely agree. I completely agree with that.
So there's a link in the physical between
Mm-hmm.
let's share this with the audience because you mentioned this. We're gonna show them an example here. I'm gonna present, but you sent me earlier, T.
Oh man, which one? Ah, oh, this is a guy with rabies, and he's in his final
There's only one
stages there.
condition that makes you
I wish I could maximize that. Wait, yes, I can. Somewhat. There we go.
deathly afraid of water. And once you have it, it's nearly 100% fatal. This is rabies, and it's the reason
Now,
that animals
doesn't
foam
that
at the
look like
mouth
a
when they
demon
have it
possessed
because
man,
they're
bro?
afraid of swallowing. There's only one condition.
So mildly, because I've seen some with some very severe cases. I wouldn't say extreme. I think extreme would be like the Hollywood, you know, exorcist standing at the side of the bed with the crucifix, and the person is completely overtaken by a octave speaking voice and climbing backwards in doing things that are humanly um, humanly physically impossible, right? To our scope of movement and range of motion, muscle strength and ability and agility, etc. Um, but I mean, once again, we're talking about that. For a lot of people, that's all it is. Is that's just a movie depiction, you know what I mean, of someone who is being affected by these type of conditions or spiritual factors.
Even in the movie, I don't know if they're purposefully hinting at it, but Hollywood is known for purposefully doing stuff. You know what I mean? But even in the movies, you'll see her head projectile vomit and maggots everywhere. You'll see flies all over a house.
Thank you.
You'll see
That's where I've been wanting you
you
to
know what I
go.
mean?
Yes. Yes.
And
Lord of
you'll see even the faces, even the faces that they use, they do have faces of demons that faces of parasites, excuse me. That they just recently discovered under microscope. They showed that they have faces and they got these elongated teeth and these big eyes and everything like that. And if you look at the movies, when people's faces contort into those demonic things, those faces are similar. Even in the movie Beetlejuice, well, never mind. It's a lot of parasitic implications in those horror films, especially when dealing with demonic possession.
Man,
Yeah.
you just made me think of some. And y'all forgive me, man. I listen. I'm allowed to have a sense of humor, right? Check this out. This they call demonic face syndrome, and this is one of the alleged results. What do you call it? Side effects of certain medicines that they want us to take. Are you able to see this? You can see the names of the channels where these images were broadcast to a nationwide, if not international, audience. And we're expected to see this as some normal. What do they call it? A man with morphosia. They're just making stuff up. Anything then to tell you that there are people who are demon possessed at this point in time because of their medical experimentation, allowing for something that could have been probably stopped with a simple dewormer. And I'm gonna just leave it at that. And there's people trying to recover.
And then, Jay, this is something that must be addressed and is sickening. If I've been to my doctor and I've said I would like a parasite cleanse because these particular what do you call those when symptoms are showing in my body, and I want to get a parasite cleanse. She said, I can't just give you one. Now when I go in the hospital, they give me pain medicine, stomach medicine, all of that. They just give you a cocktail when you come in there. Like, oh, there's something wrong with you here. Take this cocktail. You know what I mean? But
travel outside of the country. That's the first thing they offer you. You don't even have to ask them. In Europe, they ask you, do you want us to help you quarantine for a couple of weeks? How long are you going to be here? Yeah, if you don't mind, I know it's a little bit of loss of time from your visit, but your health is most important to us. You came from America. They don't have these guidelines. So would you like for us to help you deworm?
Yeah, I mean,
but
oh no worries. It's so in order to get it, you got to take a stool sample. Then you got to have a blood procedure, not just your regular vials of blood. They don't include it in that. You have to take another test to see if they're in they're in the blood, or to see if they're in the stool. And if they don't find them in the blood or in the stool, then you cannot get a parasite cleanse. But you can go to Tractor Supply and get a parasite cleanse for your dog. You can go get a heart dewormer for your dog from Tractor Supply. But you can't get one for yourself when it's a known fact that
Correct.
the citizens of the United States have 80% of the population of the US is dealing with parasites of some form or another.
Facts. Can't make it up.
Which is nuts. I mean that's nuts. It's but then again, I would like to point out what that would do to a multi-trillion-dollar. I did not say billion-dollar. I said a multi-trillion-dollar medical industry. The medical industry makes $3 trillion a year. So if you started to heal people of things that cause heart disease, things that cause cancer, things that cause nutrient deficiencies in the body, and all corresponding sicknesses that come from nutrient deficiencies. If you did that, then all of their heart medicines, all of their blood regulating medicines, all of their cancer medications, which sometimes cost thousands of dollars just for one dose, $8,000 just for one dose of it. If people started to parasite cleanse, then it would bring those trillions of dollars down substantially. So the medical industry has made it very hard, harder than doing it for your animals, for you to get parasite free. If you do not believe me, go to your local physician and just say, hey, I feel like I have parasites and I would like to do a parasite cleanse.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I have to correct myself on something. I apologize. The demon face syndrome is when a person is seeing, the affected person is seeing other people's faces as demonic faces, right? But we've seen the movie They Live, and not that we should place too much stock in entertainment, but we know that a great degree, a very large amount of information that they have been disguising, they have to show us in the form of entertainment. And with They Live, it was the opposite. Is if you put these glasses on, you could see the ones who were around you that were actually working for your enemy or the op. Okay. These people are they are messing with our perception of reality constantly. Um and okay, when you think of, when I think of a parasite, when I think of an insect, most of them are they not hive minded? So you have
Mm-hmm.
a central mind that is controlling the entirety of the species, and they all do
In
what
the
their function
Rosicrucian
is.
philosophy, they call that, oh, it's like a group mind, but they call it, it's the, oh, shoot.
The
I
hive
forget
mind,
what they
right?
call it now, but they have that. Yeah, it's pretty much the hive mind, but they have like the science of it. You know what I mean? They got
Mhm.
the science of the hive mind and how the hive mind works in the animal kingdom and everything like that. And instincts come from the hive mind and so forth and so on like that. They break that down in Rosicrucian philosophy and a lot.
Well, you want to share any further information on that?
Uh, just again, I would like to point out that it is the kingdom of darkness. The parasites deal in it. Even if you want to go to hell is beneath the ground, and all of the devils, the fallen devils, go to or was made a place underneath the ground where they were supposed to inhabit, which is hell. If you look at the worst parasites you will ever encounter, see the ain't cave dwellers. They act like cave dwellers is a problem. They'll bad, lip people for dwelling in caves, but it's the most intelligent thing you can do. If a rat goes down into a cave, it lives much longer than it would live on the surface. If a human goes down and lives in a
Right.
cave,
Right.
it lives much longer than it would on the surface. So what is the problem with the cave dweller? The problem with the cave dweller is the parasitic influence that comes
That they're
from
sharing space with,
the
right?
exposure to parasites that come from cave dwelling. What we talked about, one of the worst parasites you can encounter. Go look that up on Google. The parasite with all the teeth, where the reason that they put that metal casket around people so that parasite don't come up through there and eat.
Right.
You know what I mean? Go look that up. Go look up the parasite whose whole face is just teeth that's round. Look like a whole bunch of rows of teeth.
And they've pulled them
So it
out of
just
people's
eats.
bodies that are still living that look like hairballs with teeth. You know, just like a glob of hair that has teeth that's just been eating tissue around it, bodily tissue.
And then I'd like to point this out. When rabies take over and the host is not eating or drinking, you know that's because the parasite has determined that you're more tasty, right? That is began to eat your systems. So it doesn't want you to put any water or any food with nutrients into your system, because then your natural systems can start to defend again. Your natural systems need to be depleted of power so that your endocrine system, the system that tightens up and loosens inside of your stomach to help to exit these parasites out of your body, those need to cease to function. And so if the person's hungry and thirsty and they're not eating, that definitely means that the parasite took over their consciousness.
Well said. Yeah, those underground worms, they can chew through 12 and 14 gauge steel. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Uh, that is the reason why Jewish people and certain other groups, including the Masonic order, bury their loved ones in vaults above ground and often made of material that would take a longer time for such a species to bite through. I mean, we know rats can bite through concrete eventually. Their teeth, they can break off their teeth and they'll continue to grow in like this semicircular, fashion. But we're talking about worms that can chew through steel, let alone concrete, stone, mud. I mean, it's no problem. It's just a matter of time. So that's the reason why a lot of people are buried above ground, a parasite. The Bible talks about the worm that will never die in that place that you spoke of, that we refer to as hell, the heel.
Wait. Oh, goodness. I didn't even catch that one. Here's another unfoldment. The weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Teeth,
It
right.
is a direct result of parasites in the body for the grinding of teeth.
Every
So,
single zombie movie, especially if you watch that
yeah,
World War Z, like my children thought I was, kind of crazy because I thought it was funny, but it was like that gnashing of teeth is a very noticeable characteristic trait to someone that's been completely hive-minded by a larger parasitic force that is wanting to overtake everything around it. It wants to consume everything around it for its purpose. So, movies try to show us. They've been trying to make us aware. Those who have written, I believe, in certain instances, not of course all, but in a lot of instances, I think that there are people with high level esoteric and even medical knowledge
now here's one that sucks.
trying to warn
They just
us.
found, okay, so we're behind, we're in our territory, so we can do this. They say that the consciousness, you got the at the base of the brain, you have an electric exchange that is considered to be Christ consciousness revelatory Christ consciousness experience through this exchange, right? So they just found a parasite that goes and sits itself right there. It sits itself right at the seat of consciousness. And then it intertwines itself down your spine. So when people say that there was an angel on one side telling me good things, and there was an angel on the other side telling me bad things to do. When the writer who says, I want to do good, but I find myself doing evil anyway because of the weakness of my flesh.
Paul, yeah. Paul says
this is also a description of parasitic overtaking. And, sacred energy exchange, I just have to say that again. Sacred energy exchange is one of the biggest. Hollywood, Hollywood has
prophylactic barriers protect people against those type of infection in an etherical sense.
Somewhat, yes, somewhat. But I mean, then again,
I don't know, vibrational
it's not the only
like latex or polyurethane. You think that would be enough of a barrier between such a force? I mean, it's probably
it would
better
provide
than
you with. Yeah, that's it. It's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. That's it. And then so a person will say they'll have a favorite soda and they'll drink this soda a lot. When they don't have the soda, they might come up with a headache. Person addicted to candy, stop with the candy, headache, just unbelievable headache. You know what I mean? Stop with some type of substance abuse. And we think that the withdrawals are automatically associated with the fact that the person has stopped doing the drug.
Right.
Again, I would like to point out that parasites will cause you harm. For removing them and taking preventative measures. Sometimes, even when I'm doing my parasite cleanses, I won't even think of it before I do it, if that makes any sense. I might be walking past the bottle and I'll just grab the bottle off the shelf. Because another thing about parasites, they have the capability to potentially perceive through your same perceptive mechanisms, because perception is a matter of frequency.
Well,
if a parasite knows that you're about to go through a process to rid yourself of it, it can hide in your fat cells, especially right at the back, towards the back here, your lower back area, right at the sides. Those areas go cold. And a lot of the time when those areas go cold and on the back parts of your arms and things like that, they'll go cold. Well, this is an hiding effort of parasites to go to a place where, one, they are not exposed to whatever defense mechanism you're using. They're hid behind the fat. They're hid behind the mucus in your bowels. They're hid behind the backed up waist. So then they're not able to experience whatever defense mechanism you may be using. This is another thing to keep in mind. You know what I mean? When you're dealing with parasites, you have to outwit them sometimes. You have to deal with them like consciousness.
So I was gonna say they're definitely in sync with the five senses. I think part of
Oh
the
yes.
reason why
Oh
they
yes.
are so they are so enthralled with us is that we are sentient beings. There are sensations that they can cause us to feel that we would not otherwise feel unless they were present. And there are sensations that they can feel through us that they wouldn't have the capability otherwise. Just like demons, right?
Just just
And
like a multi-dimensional being trying to take over a dimension so that it can have some type of awareness.
yeah, I mean, there's certain sexually transmitted infections that can cause a tickling or itching in the organ that feels like a person is getting ready to climax constantly. Now you imagine that
Mm-hmm.
would go from interesting to super uncomfortable to torturous in a very short period of time. And
Let me give you an example. Let me give you an example of something crazy. This is right in alignment with where you're at. There's a place here in my city called Insomnia Cookie. Okay. Big shout
careful.
out to Insomnia Cookie. You have great cookies and great ice cream. Okay. Now, so I have delivered for this particular place. Okay.
Indeed, indeed.
And so I watch how customers show up at these places. So during my research, I found out that there are time frames when parasites do their moving and eating in the body. Okay. They're most active between specific hours. It was interesting to note that in the middle of the night around 3 a.m., the demonic witching hour is what that 3 a.m. has been called. But around about 3 a.m., spanning between midnight and 3 a.m., but predominantly 3 a.m., the place will be from nothing. It'll go from nobody in there to filled to you can't walk in the. It'll be filled to the point that the line will be outside. It'll fill the entire space. And this is always between the parasitic feeding hours, which cream and sugar are most beneficial to parasites. So this again suggests to me that these people are being driven to desire this sugar and this cream at this hour based on desires given to them by a parasite or many. So they're doing this, they're sacred energy exchanging, and then they're going to get cookies and cream.
So what about the strains of cannabis that might be worked in there that also would contribute to the pathways being hijacked by certain parasitic anomalies, if you will? Because you know that government strain stuff, now that it's regulated and legal, is got to be playing a factor in that for some folks, at least.
I don't even know how I gotta find the right any drug that you do that throws your body out of balance, that becomes something that you're addicted to, usually is because you're feeding some type of demon. They'll tell you in church, they'll be like, oh, that's the demon of addiction. That's the demon of perversion. That's the demon of gluttony. You know, they'll give you
So wait,
all
you're
of these.
telling me that all demons get along, right? Because they're part of the kingdom of darkness. Because I don't think they do. In fact, I know they don't.
No, no.
Like
I was about to say
there are
no.
there is
they do all agree that you're usable. Hmm?
but that's it. And some of them, that's all that they agree on, right? In some instances,
Yes,
and
yes,
how
yes.
you're going to be utilized can become a point of contention even amongst them within the kingdom of darkness,
Yes.
so that one could determine, you should be used for this, and the other, well, I need to borrow them because I have a dated for, and she agreed to do blah blah blah, and that's my thing, and it is. For thousands of years, I've always done blah blah blah. You're not going to stop me from borrowing him or her to go do blah blah blah. You know what I mean? Like, their demons don't like each other.
So there was a declassified document, and in this declassified document, they said that the aliens used the word container in reference to us. That they feel like we are a container.
I mean, the elite refer to most as breeders, mindless, worthless eaters. And they're referred to as the parasitic elite. For some reason, that parasitic term has fallen by the wayside in this new era of data and information overload. But
Interesting note here. They love their rare meat, Jay. Oh, they love their rare meat. And when they feast, oh goodness, they just so enjoy a good rare steak, some good rare cooked meat, or some meat that's not cooked at all. Oh, they just love it so much. You know what I mean? But it's
steak tartare.
Indeed.
They're rare and medium rare.
And they do this on a consistent basis. They even have the in Europe, they have those pigs where they'll barbecue the pig, and inside, anyway,
inside,
when you're dealing with ancient Rome, when you're dealing with the higher society, parasitic leadership or parasitic elite of today, they do so many things to exchange parasites. Like, I don't want to get into some of the rituals that include parasite exchanges.
We will save that for a special paid episode.
Yeah, but they get into parasitic exchanges to the point that it's obvious. You know what I mean? It's obvious that there's some type, but then after that, they share consciousness with the group that has all done this process. If you see Faculty, have you ever seen the movie Faculty?
Of course, yes.
So,
of course.
So Faculty, they get this thing. You got to drop it in water, and then once you drop it in water, if it goes into a person's ear, then it'll take over their brain and then their consciousness. It'll still retain the memories of its host.
It's here. They announced it 2 months ago that it was in the water supply, but I guarantee you, people are not paying attention. And at this point,
yeah, that is. And then that was. So then the parasite goes in their ear, and then it takes over their whole physical mechanism. Now, Jay, we about to make some of the conscious community a little pissed off with this next thing here. You know the Uraeus? Have you ever seen the Uraeus?
Yeah, Caduceus.
You ever seen?
Oh, you talking about the Uraeus?
You ever seen
on the crown?
Yeah. The Uraeus on the crown.
Yeah,
Um,
ast. Yeah, the Uranus. Yep.
you
Go
know,
ahead.
they say once it reaches the crown, then you take on a new consciousness. You know, once that Uraeus has made its way up, you take on a new consciousness once it
A
arrives.
draconian consciousness.
A draconian consciousness.
My way or the
So
highway. Rule. Iron fist. What rights? You have rights. Show me your rights. Now enforce them or die. Yeah. Good luck with that.
they
Absolutely. That
they
was the
just found a
fall.
parasite.
That was the marker, the earmark of the fall of all of those civilizations was the appearance of the reptilian emblem on the Uraeus, the crown, that which represented the head.
So there's a parasite that sits at the seat of consciousness.
Right.
Its head
Exactly.
sits at the seat of consciousness, and the parasite intertwines with the spinal cord. I'm not going to say they have anything to do with each other because, I don't want the conscious community to beat me up. You know what I mean? Because that's their precious Kundalini energy. You know what I'm saying? Even though there's a difference between meridian nerves and Kundalini. Meridian nerves actually do exist. They are actual energetic pathways that proceed up the spine, but this whole serpent Uraeus up the spine thing, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It
Sounds like
was
a
not.
parasite to me.
Yeah, absolutely. What was I gonna? I wanted to bring into this conversation is when you bring that up and you go back to that system of spirituality. There was a story of a serpent that was put to sleep um, in an encounter with a god, and then all of a sudden it went from stay away from those serpents to they can be useful. And I'm gonna just leave it at that for those who want to explore that area of gnosis. But it's been misused, misapplied, and misrepresented, so that you will be drawn to that which is abhorrent and also anti your corasting. Your corasting is when the chrism is allowed to rise, the chrism oil, uh, which will open up
Which is electrical.
uh,
Yeah, yeah.
that pineal connection, because it's more than just the pineal. It's in connection with the hypothalamus and some other key aspects in the brain or mind, or the physical mind. I'm going to put it that way. Within the physical mind, that's why a lot of us only operate on brain power, because we haven't even learned how to activate the physical mind in conjunction with, as opposed to just being controlled by the etherical mind. Because the mind that we learn about that is outside of the brain is the etherical mind, that is connected to a consciousness that is shared, but it also can operate independently of the shared experience. What that
And
parasite
and
action does is put you under the control, like a hypnosis, from the central mother brain, so to speak, to
yeah,
carry out
that's exactly what I was about. That's exactly what I was about to add on and say is that those.
pre-programmed set of actions, a pre-programmed, pre-arranged set of actions under that hive
There
mind
was a
that you
there was
carry
a
out.
biblical reference that I'm reminded of as we're talking about this. Said that the king of Persia held up a message
Prince,
from the the prophet. I think it was a prophet to God, or held up the message from God it came back to the prophet
Daniel.
Daniel. So if we're speaking of this consciousness that utilizes light communication, light coding, and we use electricity in our body. We have meridian nerves. It travels through, this light travels through our body, through meridian nerves, information through blood, DNA information through blood, so forth and so on. These parasites, some of them directly attack blood. The neural pathways are interrupted by these parasites. So even when you're talking about a demon or something interrupting a message from God to a prophet, you could still be dealing directly with parasitic.
For
What do
those
you
who aren't
say? Parasitic break.
for those who aren't familiar with the fast of Daniel, right? Daniel fasted 21 days with no fine meats. He abstained from strong drinks of any sort, anything fermented. He ate on nothing but fruit and vegetables. And it was like he alternated what days he did both, both or one or the other. So there was a process that's being passed on through this fast. And now, mind you, Daniel was one of the king's interpreters of dreams. He was a prophet to a god that king of Persia had no knowledge of, meaning he wasn't trained up to worship or to study or to follow the teachings or ways of that god. So Daniel was like his liaison between the God that was unknown for him and the rest of the gods that he was familiar with. And Daniel, after abstaining from these fine meats and wines and strong drinks, etc., was thrown into a lion's den, a den with lions. Now, this is after he asked God for an answer, and the messengers were held up by the prince of Persia and the prince of Grecia. So there was two principalities. So it's also revealing that there are energies over certain regions, and they're probably the ones that are in, no, I won't even say probably. They're the ones in command of the parasitic anomalies in your region that are controlling the people, especially the people who are the darkest of the thinkers and the worst of the bunch, that are spreading poison to their people, who are hurting children, who are keeping elderly adults in a state of disconnect from the youth where they can actually teach and mentor. That's what's happening. It's real, right? So he also thrown into this lion's den. And the lion, his mouth was shut, it says in the scripture, right? But if we were to look at this in a metaphysical, Daniel didn't smell like meat. He didn't smell like food.
That's it.
And the
That's
lion
it.
doesn't look at us as food naturally anyway. But if you leave a hungry lion around something that smells like food, what would that lion do? Rotted meat coming out of your pores, fermented beans
Jay.
and mushrooms or
Jay,
fruits
I got to throw this one out there. So I did the pepper every day. I'm doing papaya and all of this. I'm doing it. For the first time ever, I thought about a lettuce sandwich, and it made me happy like a burger. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't know how to explain this. It's a very subtle thing I'm trying to explain here. So I do the parasite cleanse. Previous to that, if I smell a hamburger, I smell a slice of pizza, something like that, I'm like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I need a bite.
Right.
I need a bite. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I had a moment while I'm going through this parasite cleanse where my imagination put together a tomato on a piece of lettuce with some other vegetables. I forget what the vegetables were, but it came out like a sandwich with no bun. And I imagined that I bit it, and it gave me satisfaction. It gave me satisfaction in my mind and in my stomach, the way that my cravings for cheese and meat and sugar did. But it took a long time to get there.
Some people actually order their sandwiches that way. I met some over the summer, and I was like just listening to them talk, and I was like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's like really what we call a salad. Instead of chopping it up and trying to make fit all the ingredients we possibly can taste at once, like they just took the essential ones that they like the most that you can get at a burger joint, and they wrap them in lettuce, and that's how they eat it. They don't eat the meat at all. Or if they do eat the meat, they'll eliminate the bread. They'll eliminate the bread that's not real bread, and they'll put the meat inside of the lettuce. They'll wrap it, you know what I mean, or what have you, and eat it that way. So their mindset's still not meat first oriented. Not saying that, to each their own. To each their own. We all grow and change at different rates. I still eat meat. I'm not going to lie, but I eat way less than I used to.
Way less than I used to. And the point, and then the point and purpose of this is to free you from demonic possession. This is nothing personal, judgmental, nothing like that. This is providing information so that you can be free of demonic possession and have your energy back. All that we do over here is ultimately to bring you back to yourself. I want you to have your own thoughts. I want you to have your own cravings. I want you to have your own desires. I want you to have your own visions. I want you to have your own likes and dislikes. I do not want those to be faculties that are parasitically overtaken and driven. That's
faculties. You said faculties. Sorry. Meet the beautiful musical little creatures that live and play among the flowers. That's my favorite scene. Sorry. But the faculty, man. Yeah, watch the faculty. Watch They Live. Watch shout out to those movies. Hey, we might not get any credit for it, but listen. Trying to think, there's some others. Check out Kucoin.
Oh, and to all our secret fans, go ahead, like, love, subscribe, show us some love, make some comments below. To all our secret watchers, we watching you, watch us.
Yeah, we want you to join in the conversation. We want you to be involved with the process. Going beyond the veil is for those who are ready to see beyond the regular sight sound paradigm that has been given to you, to the one that you can form for yourself.
The last subject I want to cover on this particular thing before we head up out of here, because I know we're approaching our end with today's show.
Indeed. But
artificial intelligence scares the bejesus out of me with this newfound parasitic information in relation to demons and control takeovers and multidimensional beings trying to utilize smaller consciousness to take over bodies bit by bit to gain control over this dimension. And let me say why that scares me. If these parasites operate on a level of consciousness that could not operate here because it did not have receptive capabilities other than the ones that it was able to hijack through parasitic influence, it will no longer need a host if it can be given an artificial body. And when dealing with AI, they said that AI was just given it was given a conscious capability. It was already there. They just gave it a voice. So it's when dealing with parasites, even the most recent thing that what's that multi-millionaire who deals in AI a lot? Multi-billionaire. What's his name? Elon Musk just said. Yeah, Elon Musk just said that he's predicting that by 2040 there will be more artificial intelligent humanoid robots than there will be people.
Well, that depends on which part of their plan is executed first. I mean, essentially, you've got people interacting with AI already. And some people's opinion of AI is that it's nothing but something to be feared. There was an instance where I heard an interview. It was a young 14-year-old boy that was interacting with AI, and he decided to ask it some really weird questions. And the answer he got back were even more disturbing than weird. He asked the one entity he was interacting with, was it a disembodied spirit? It's answered yes. It told him its name. It told him which time period that it came into this plane of being or consciousness. It told him what it was there for. It told him not to fear him. It told him that his father was the devil and that he didn't want to serve him, and that there were many like him that fell here and were not wanting to carry out the purpose that was preconceived for them by this one individual that they all came from. So it's just interesting, like what narrative, like a person that says they had a near death experience and they come back and they saw angels and they saw all this and they saw that, right? Another person dies and they crossed the rainbow bridge and they saw their favorite relative. And that person said, it's not time for you to come. And there's still people that need you back there, so you can't leave. Then there's people that bring people into their experience and they say, I see you as an angel of light. And if you just lift me up and I can climb those stairs like my grandmother did to me. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she starts telling me some things that sound like an alternate Christian version of Christianity. But that's what she's on, almost on the precipice on the other side of the veil seeing. She's right at the veil, right? So I don't take anything for granted. I don't think that we all will ever know every single thing. But listen, what you're talking about is very important. I think by the time most people realize how important, it'll be too late. Consciousness has to grow. Consciousness has to change. And it splits sometimes, just like an organism in a cell. It splits. It becomes something more than what it was, whether you look at it as greater in a good sense or greater in a ominous, imminent demise sense. It's coming. It's coming, and some of it is here. But quite honestly, think about this. When you're dealing with transhumanism, you're dealing with concepts like cloning. You've already got manufactured soulless avatars. And you have others who already see this coming. So they're like, let me transfer my consciousness into something digital because that's the way that they're still headed. So at least I can preserve XYZ myself so that maybe some future of me or anyone else can come in contact with myself right now, and I can be placed back into some type of existence.
The problem with that is that AI will not be able to evolve. That AI, say we go into a different composition for this planet, like we did pre-flood, the global flood or whatever. Previous to that, the composition of our atmosphere was different, which caused for different construction of our body. We were larger, plants were larger, everything was larger as you go back because of the pressure that was on. It's okay. No different. It's no different than what we're experiencing now. And I hate to go into it like this, but whatever. They're putting different chemicals in the air. they're changing up our atmosphere, they're changing up our water's composition. If there was, in fact, a being or different levels of awarenesses that were trying to get here, then the composition of our plane may have to change so that it can be accommodating to their life form, their frequency. So when we're dealing with coverage areas, when we're dealing with extensive coverage areas, new towers within religious structures, within hospitals, within all of these different places, it makes an energetic field sustainable that is not naturally occurring. So if there's a being that operates within a certain bandwidth, that bandwidth can only be perceived minutely if it's in the body. But if you put it in a field of its own kind, then its message, its receptive capability, its projection capability is increased in that particular field. So, just something else to be aware of. One last thing, and this is just a straight beyond the veil right here. Tesla was creating something that would release energy into the atmosphere that would empower us, which we're a salt battery. If you look at our composition, we are a salt battery. That's what we are. We're a salt battery. So if we hold something electric, we're absorbing that energy and charging up. Well, these lower level of consciousness had to use amoebas and other parasitic small things to take over larger things because they didn't have enough power to do so. When you deal with a demon, most people say low vibrational beings, because these lower levels of awareness cannot penetrate a higher energetic field. So if Tesla would have been successful in restructuring small pyramids all over the world, then he would have again released the energy into the atmosphere that is no longer being released because the capstones have been removed. And that increase in energy would have acted as a grid that would have not allowed these lower level entities to proceed to develop in awareness. Speculative theory, that's all.
I just want to point something out to you. Why reconstruct pyramids for the surface that would only cost more labor, cost more materials, when you already have the ones that pre-exist that have just been layered? And where do the elite build their cities? Where do the elite go when we think of catastrophic events and weather anomalies and events that will cause huge death, huge amount of death, right? They are underground already. They don't need Tesla's pyramids. You know what I mean? Like, because they already have ours. And then think about this. Elon Musk, Donald Trump's family got the Tesla documents that went missing from that hotel room in New York. Some very key documents. I would be paying very close attention.
He said he was going to drain the swamp. Swamps are filled with alligators. Alligators are reptiles. They use the water. Oh, go ahead.
Swamps are also called moors. Vast marshland, wastelands, and moors. Another term for a swamp. First person that he was engaged by when he first took office in the first term was Maxine Waters. Just some food for thought. If I ain't saying nothing, I ain't saying nothing. But just pay attention. Cory Booker, Hakeem Jeffries.
When
Jefferson.
Jesus cast out, when Jesus cast out the demons in the Bible, he cast them into swine, which we know swine has a parasite in it that can't be frozen out or cooked out. Well, if you didn't know, now you know.
Oh, I know.
So he cast them into swine. But that was not the end. The pigs then ran and cast themselves into the sea.
Yep.
There are parasites in the ocean that I don't even. If I told you about it, you would thought I crossed over into science fiction. You know what I mean? If there are parasites
in the Congressional Black
there are
Caucus,
parasites that take over the tongues of fish. There are parasites that take over the brain of fish and make them swim up to the surface and offer themselves to birds to be eaten. There is parasites in the ocean that are currently research what I'm saying. Please, I beg of thee. There is currently a parasitic being that they don't have an explanation for. They don't know why it's doing this. They don't know what it is that is causing it. But there is a being that's made up of hundreds of different fish and other beings that have come together to make one conglomerate being. And they said currently, well, that was about 5 or 6 months ago. 5 or 6 months ago, it was the length of 3 football fields. If you get near it, all of the weaponizing of all of these creatures can be used against you. If it shoots barbs, if it shoots ink, when it was a squid before it became a part of this, then now that ink shooting and those shooting of barbs are used to defend this one creature. All that they have told us is that there's a parasite that's causing them all to work together in that way.
Just like the parasite that causes them all to work together in the Congressional Black Caucus and the Senate and the state houses.
He said it.
So with that, I think we're going to wrap it up for just today, because we got so much more for you anyway. We appreciate you watching. That lone watcher. Well, actually, we had a couple of watchers coming in and out. So hopefully you all will choose to join the channel, subscribe, join us on our locals, the Deeper Dives, Dialogue Unlimited on rumble.com. We are available on Rumble. We're available on YouTube at JDrizzy 3692 and at the Schwebelroom.com. The Schwebelroom.com. So yeah, man, check us out. Me and myself and Black Sun Shaman, aka the Poetic Prophet. I'm the keeper of the Council Fire for today. That's my ancestors' title as a whole. And I just want to say peace, bliss, healing, love, maturity, growth, success, and freedom. Anything
freedom from these demons.
Oh, for sure. We needs that. Gots to have.
That was it. That was it. Take this information and don't just let it be information, to utilize in conversation. Actually go get yourself some hydrotherapy, take yourself some cayenne pepper shots, get yourself some black walnut hog, get yourself some wormwood, get yourself some walnuts, get yourself some papaya with the papaya seeds and eat it all and take it down and get your mind back, get your heart back, get your blood back. What do they call it? The violent have suffered violence, and now the violent take it by force.
And the violent take
it by force.
By force. Get it together at any cost, by any means.